All right, we thought the Texans needed to address the offense. They definitely did that in the draft. What does it look like after the fact? What does the visual look like? Is there anything else they can do before camp? And what are some of those camp battles that we are looking forward to? It is SNL, Andrew Locker, Cody Stutes with you, Nick Caserio. Little bit of a digital media rounds today, Nick Caserio, both locally and nationally. He addressed some of these things as well as some confirmation of what he said about the draft. But as we look at this offense now compared to what we thought about it a week ago, how has your outlook on the offensive side of the rock changed?
I was worried about their ability to get legitimate impact wide receivers if they decided to go a different direction with their first couple of selections. So, for instance, if they'd ended up with a first-round offensive lineman, I don't believe there's really any chance they end up with both the Iowa State guys. If they'd gone with a running back at 34, I don't believe they end up with Higgins. They probably just end up with Knoll in that scenario. So I was worried about that a week ago, and they went and they got two guys that can have an effect on this year. Higgins, I feel like a little bit more maybe than Knoll, but I really like that aspect of the draft and what they were able to address. And then I also like the addition of one running back, even though I was hoping it was going to be a Joe Mixon backup more than a third down back. But I like the addition of the running back because they needed new blood and they needed somebody with a little bit more youth and a defined skill in that running back room than what they had going into the draft. So as far as the offense goes from that standpoint, I like that. I felt like they needed more options on the interior offensive line. They got zero in the draft. I know they picked up some guy who's played 70 snaps for the Patriots in 2 seasons yesterday off waivers. That doesn't really blow my skirt up. So still a lot of questions about the offensive line. And that question gets slightly answered if all of a sudden we find out Ariante Ursary is going to be able to play as a guard. So that changes it a little bit, but I'm pretty impressed with their ability to add to the wide receiver room because if they'd gone with other positions, it would have been harder to add a guy or two guys that I feel good about like I do with the two Iowa State players.
See, what if he's just ready to go at tackle? What if he's just what if there's not much of a gap between him and Cam Robinson? I think that's better than him playing guard. As far as Ursary goes, I think that's a better scenario than him just playing guard. Like I get that they invested what they invested in Cam Robinson. They had to do it. It is what it is, kind of like how it is what it is with Titus Howard. But if Ursary goes out there and there's, let's say that he's just a notch below Cam Robinson, and he plays tackle, I think that's a better case scenario than just putting him in there at guard where he's never played before.
Yeah, well, if he's a notch below Cam Robinson, then play Cam Robinson. I want the best left tackle out there. So he needs to be better than Cam Robinson. He's going to play over Cam Robinson.
No, I think given the fact that there's going to be growth and development, put him out there and let him figure some stuff out. And then maybe a couple weeks into the season, he's above Cam Robinson for me. I think.
I just don't believe he's going to be anywhere close to that. I just don't believe he's going to be anywhere close to Cam Robinson. Cam Robinson was not some slappy last year. Like he's not the Laken Tomlinson of left tackle options. He's not the Ed Ingram of left tackle options. Like Cam Robinson's better at what he does than any of the other guys they've added to the offensive line of what they do.
And maybe there's a situation where he beats out Blake Fisher at right tackle. I think the thing for me as I start to look at this and I start to hear what Caserio says with Kay Adams and with John Harris and just what he said before that, I think his theory that kind of generated some distaste from a lot of people, it's going to be put to test this year. And he said he had one quote before the draft, which I think if you look at it on the surface, I think he's correct. I think if a general manager says it, I think it sounds a little bit weird, especially before the draft. I think if you're assessing what draft picks end up being, I think the quote is true for the most part. But if you're saying it leading into the draft, I think it kind of pisses a lot of people off, including you. I don't think you love the quote. But he said the draft is basically 50-50. He basically said, yeah, you have a 50% chance of a pick hitting, which, okay, whatever you say. But in two significant areas of need, that theory gets put to test right off the top, because for 2 consecutive years, you've drafted tackles in the second round. So one of those guys better be effing good. If you want to bat 50, like you gave us a batting average. Some people rolled their eyes at it, but you gave us a batting average. So 2 straight years you drafted tackles in the second round. So that better work. Wide receiver room needs to improve. You drafted 2 guys in the second round from the same school that do different things. So one of those guys better make significant impacts. So on the offensive side of the ball, there better be at bare minimum 2 guys that we haven't seen make major impacts on the offensive side of the ball, make impacts this year. And I think in a perfect world, you get more than 2. But that 50-50 quote that he threw out there and that 50-50 theory is going to get put to test. I do think they've done a good job of improving the wide receiver room. I think they've done a good job of that between Kirk and what they did in the draft. I think given the assets and given what you would have had to give up to get a player above Kirk's magnitude or status, I think you did a good job there in that area. Offensive line, you've got a lot of bodies. I know Nick Caserio talked about it with Kay Adams. It was kind of interesting. Let's just hear what the hell he had to say with Kay Adams. Here was Caserio talking about the state of the offensive line.
One of the few that's made a very astute observation, Kay, about the composition of that group right now. So I'd say we have a lot of players that have a lot of experience, not only in NFL, but in our system as well. So have some players that are tackle only, have some players that have experience playing tackle and guard, have some players that are guard only, have some players that can play all 3 inside positions. So we feel like there's going to be really good competition amongst that group. I think we have a lot of confidence in the players that are here. I'd say add Nursery to that group, we feel as a player that's going to enhance that competition as well. As played a lot of football, brings a certain physicality and a mindset and a toughness to that. So we'll get the 5 best guys out there on the field, and we're going to have 8 at the game every week. But we feel that overall that's a pretty competitive group, and we feel like at some point it's all going to manifest itself, and there's an opportunity for us out there that we feel makes sense that we can add a player. We're never going to turn that down.
I mean, okay. That is versatility on steroids. Like that is, I just need to see 5 guys that can do the 5 things that they're asked to do. Like, yeah, you obviously have a variety, buddy, but I mean, it is a junk box at a garage sale right now. And you can try to sell the junk box at the garage sale, but usually that is a take 1 item as you leave the garage sale type of stuff. So yeah, no one is disputing. I didn't think the observation was that astute, but yeah, you have a lot of guys who have done a lot of stuff on the offensive line. That is true.
I'd love to know who the hell can play all 3 interior spots, because it's not Juice Scruggs. It's not him. It's not Jared Patterson. So my thing about like the way he's approaching it is like, if somebody else had picked the players, I'd feel better about it. Like you talk about the 50-50 with the O-linemen. I mean, they could very easily be 0 for 2 and the 50-50s on a 4 lineman conversation instead of just 2 when you're thinking about Fisher and Ursery with second round picks. Like, it's just as likely that they miss on both those guys than it is for one of them to hit the way that they've evaluated offensive line, unless Nick Caley and Cole Popovich have this massive, incredible impact that we're unaware of. It's still a worrisome point. And I know the competition's going to decide the 5 best, but it's still the 5 best of like what you put, the bin at the garage sale where they just let you have something. Now, I do have a question about what he said. Did he accidentally let something slip there at the beginning? I want you to listen again.
No, because I think I know where you're at, and I think he did this twice today.
Okay, let me play it again here, and I'll point out the slip.
You're one of the few that's made a very astute observation, Kay, about the composition of that group right now. So I'd say we have a lot of players that have a lot of experience, not only in NFL, but in our system as well. So
there it is.
And I actually sent the timestamp. I have that. You can go look at my scheduled, because I didn't even notice with Adams, because her interviews just kind of sometimes just get a little crazy to me. But at the 13:30 mark of the interview with Mark and John, he said the exact same thing. He said, there are guys that have played in our system. And I said, okay, well, then they're running the Patriot system, because we don't know what Nick Caley's system is. And you can even look at my description right now in the locker room. I said, did Nick Caley drop a big clue? So he didn't just do it on Texans radio, he did it on Kay Adams. He said our system. So
yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering if when he said system, he was talking about the offense. And by talking about the offense, our system would be a little bit more Patriots version than Rams version.
Well, none of these guys have played for the Rams. So when you talk about hybrid, like a lot of these guys have played for the Patriots or played in a version of the Patriots system. So
well, some of these guys did play in McVay offshoots.
Yeah,
obviously Robinson and Ingram did, and Tomlinson did.
Yeah, but
he let it slip a little bit. Then we both sniffed out the same thing.
Yeah, so I just wondered, okay, so is this going to be more Patriots? But yeah, he said the exact same thing. It was at the 13:28 mark with Vandy and John Harris. So he said the same thing. You caught that there with the Kay Adams. He said it there.
Yeah.
On the super chat here on SNL, Landry Locker, Cody Stutes, with you reacting to what Caserio had to say and taking a close look at the state of the offense. You ain't never
Swarm.
HD Traveler says, afternoon, Landry, Cody, and friends. Afternoon to you, mi amigo. Chance Harris, what happens or who gets held responsible if the offensive line is bottom 10 in the league again? I mean, everybody. You would have to overcome it, but I mean, I don't know. Like if they're bottom 10 in the league, does that mean Caserio gets fired? I would doubt it.
No.
But I think they would have to figure out their evaluation process. So,
yeah, I would say the two people that should get held accountable for that are DeMeco Ryans and Nick Caserio, because DeMeco Ryans can say, make sure this offensive line is way better than it is, and Nick Caserio kind of has to do his bidding, or Nick Caserio should have just picked better players or scouted better players or got better players in there. So those two guys, it's one thing. Like DeMeco Ryans comes in. The offensive line is what it is. They go into 2024 with the line that they wanted to put on the field at the end of 2023 or at the end of 2023's draft. That's one thing. You get the opportunity to adjust it, change it, swap it out, and it fails again. Then the blame starts to spread beyond more than just one person.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, like, they've already changed it, So I guess they've already pointed the finger this year, like it was Bobby, it was Strausser, it was Tunsil, it was Shaq, it was Titus, get the fuck off right tackle, like that. So there's been change. So I don't know what the next step is if you do find yourself in even more of a kick the can down the road type of thing. But I mean, there's a lot of bodies. Let's visually just look at this offensive line, because I don't want y'all to get a headache, but we have the two deep spreadsheet. So if you're looking at the depth chart right now at left tackle, Cam Robinson is being backed up by Ursery. Left guard, you have Laken Tomlinson and Titus Howard. Perhaps a battle there. And then you have Jared Patterson and Juice Scruggs at center.
Mm-hmm.
And then at right guard, it's Ed Ingram, Broker, and then Fisher and Brown at right tackle. I don't even know if Fisher is if Brown is a right tackle or what. I don't know what he's up to.
I don't believe. I mean, if you want to just start making cuts of people on the roster right now, I would tell you Trent Brown's not making the team because of the injury history. So
yeah, and I would also say Ursery kind of changes it to where maybe he pushes someone a little bit back. So,
and it's worth noting they signed Deculus for 2025 before 2024 ended. So
right.
They must have, they perhaps had him in backup plans for 2025. And he started for him in 2023. He started a game for him and left tackle,
and they won.
And they won. And they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, so he's a good. I mean, he's someone that they trust as far as the emergency thing. But
you're totally fine as a fourth tackle.
But when you visually look at it, it's just kind of like, where are we going from here? It is kind of unfortunate that you don't look at Juice Scruggs and just feel like, okay, this guy's going to be one of your starters and you feel good about it. Who knows? Maybe they move him to the right side. Maybe he can move around a little bit. That'll be interesting to see what they do with Juice, but that's the most unfortunate thing. And then you have the tackles and all that. So it's a lot.
It's also unfortunate that you're paying Titus Howard all the money you're paying him, and you can't find a spot where you know for sure he's going to start on this team. Like that's rough. It's one thing. It's one thing. Cam Robinson comes in on a 1-year deal. Your second round tackle just happens to be better than him. That's one thing. Titus has been with the organization. They could have ate the money and got rid of him. They made it nearly impossible to get rid of him. And I can't for sure tell you he's better than Laken Tomlinson. He's better than Ed Ingram. He's better than Juice Scruggs if Scruggs plays guard. Like, I can't tell you for sure that's the case.
Titus is kind of Titus is sitting here, but you can really go like this with him. Like you could say that he's your backup right tackle. You could say that he's your, so it's like it's a weird thing with Titus there. And really, like, we'll see how these guys line up, but that it gives you a headache. So I'm gonna remove that for a second. We'll go back to it. But the offensive line, just a lot of stuff going on the offensive line.
If it's just, I mean, I understand options. You need to have options. I just wonder if they could have had a couple of better options and maybe spent money and draft picks a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, I think the money was spent before the draft because they didn't know what they were going to do. So I'm with you. I get it. Like, if you could go back in time and know what the draft was going to be, I would agree. Well, Yordi on the soup.
Sure, I understand that, but they also spent like $9 million on special teams only guys.
That was weird. I didn't get that. Yeah, that was lame. I didn't understand that.
Like, you could have spent money on, you could have spent $9-10 million on a guard and not had 17 special teams only guys.
They really value that. And it's weird because I thought that last year was probably Frank Ross's worst year of special teams. And then all of a sudden they're like investing all this money into it. Yordi G says, I keep reading that CJ couldn't fix the OL with slow. He couldn't fix the offensive line with slow. I don't know what that means. I guess like he couldn't go to the line of scrimmage and change the play. Like, do we know that he's good at that?
That Stroud didn't adjust the protections or whatever.
Yeah, it's the Brock Purdy argument where, you know, the San Francisco folks are like, why can't he change the play? Well, is he good at it? Like, is Brock Purdy good at it? Is CJ Stroud good at it? I feel like there's always like an assumption of, you know, this guy should have feedback and this guy should do that. And, well, how does that work? So we'll see how that goes. There was another question that Kay Adams asked, and I think she, like, everybody's talking about like prank calls and stuff like that. I feel like this might be like the Houston version of a prank call where she asks a question, and even Nick Caserio is kind of like, do you have like a lot of Michigan fans? He's like, yeah, we should probably just talk about golf.
Well, but here, we'll let Kay set it up and Nick answer it.
The most common Twitter question I got when I said that you were joining us this morning was about Ladarius Henderson. An update. I think there's a real groundswell of support for thinking that
a lot of Michigan fans out there.
Maybe that's what it is. I guess, like, give the people what they want. What is the update on Ladarius?
LD's been working his ass off really since last year. It's unfortunate he kind of had a deal with a couple different foot injuries. One that he was aware of, maybe one that kind of came to fruition when he got here, was new, but he's worked really hard. He's been here essentially every day since the season has ended. So he's got a great attitude, very upbeat, very positive, a lot of energy. You know, he was a player that we thought was going to be competitive with the group last year, played tackle at Michigan, had some snaps inside as well. So kind of fits with the rest of the group. So awesome human being, just a great kid. So he's had a good attitude. He didn't allow what happened last year to affect his overall work ethic and mindset. So he's been great to have here, and we're anxious to see him on the field.
All right.
Would you like to know how many Twitter messages she got about Ladarius Henderson?
She said a lot, man. She said that's what was on the fans' mind.
3.
Okay.
She had 2 responses and 1 quote tweet asking about Ladarius Henderson. You know what a lot of people asked about? Why is the offensive line so shitty? That's what a lot of people asked about when she said Nick Casario's coming on. What do y'all want to know? There were 3 Ladarius Henderson questions, and there are a lot of people like, yeah, what are you doing with the offensive line? This thing's not looking too good. Ladarius Henderson. Who knew that a 6th round pick who didn't play football last year was going to solve everything?
Yeah, that was interesting. That was thrown out. I feel like she might have gotten punked there. Let's go to the wide receivers now. That's another area where I think there's a little bit of intrigue, and there's quite a lot of certainty though. Like there's quite a lot of certainty at the wide receiver position compared to the offensive line as we pull up the spreadsheet again. If we look at wide receiver, Collins, Kirk, Higgins, Knoll are on the team.
Mhm.
I think Watson's on the team.
There's 5.
And then your guess is as good as mine between Hutchinson, Berrios, Mechie, Johnson. And I think the Johnsons are practice squad guys. Wayne is still around. But for the most part, you have a pretty decent idea. Now, where are they going to look like? Where are they going to put them? That's another issue in itself. But as far as who makes the team, I think it's pretty set in stone at the wide receiver position. There's just competition on the back end.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if they keep 6 with one of the guys being special teams only. That would make room for Berrios and would allow them to keep Hutchinson as well. Hutchinson getting the shout out from Nick Caserio
3 times
isn't insignificant to me. Like, I don't know that it makes the team because of that, but it's worth noting he plays a lot more special teams as a deep down the depth chart wide receiver than John Mechie does. So unless Mechie shows up playing a whole hell of a bunch of special teams, Hutchinson's got an advantage there over Mechie. Obviously, Berrios has a special teams advantage over both of them because he's a former All-Pro at the position, but it's more as a returner, whereas Hutchinson and Mechie aren't return guys necessarily.
Well, and Berrios was signed before they knew that Knoll would fall in their lap.
Correct.
So like what Berrios was, and this is kind of my Cam Robinson argument, like they didn't say we're going to bring in Berrios and we're going to get Knoll in the draft. It just kind of played into their hands whenever they came up at 79 or whatever it was, and he was there. So
Berrios doesn't make enough money that you're like, oh, we can't get rid of him. I mean, they ate like $4 million on Noah Brown last year, so they're not afraid to eat some money.
Yeah, so that the wide receiver position is pretty set in stone. I think they need to find a place for John Mechie. And I actually think there might be some interest from somebody wanting to kick the tires on John Mechie and maybe get rid of one of their guys. So
like a place in a trade.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought you were saying a place on the roster. I was like, what?
Come on. So I think that finding somewhere for John Mechie to compete would be in the best interest of him and the best interest of them at this point.
But I wonder if they could even make that deal happen before training camp.
No, I think they could. Because there's definitely not a fit there.
And I mean, obviously I have Tank Dell way over here, but we don't expect Tank Dell to be playing in 2025. So that's why he's way over here on a little island by himself. But
yeah,
I would try to find the guard equivalent of John Mechie and trade John Mechie for him.
Yeah. Or the running back or the corner or the whatever. Just somewhere, something for John Mechie, some sort of value. And then you just go about business when it comes to the wide receiver position.
Yeah, somebody that has like a competitive path to the roster, whereas Mechie's got a very long road to getting to this roster.
He had a long road last year, if we're being honest. Like it was, I mean, he
came on strong there at the end and found his way on.
Yes, I would think you try to figure something out there for him.
Sure.
Put him in a good situation. Tight end room looks the same, which is unfortunate. Tight end room, running back room. You did add Woody Marks. Caserio talked about Woody Marks as a really, really good receiver, called him a 3-down guy. Mentioned being in Mike Leach's offense and then Lincoln's. Not
exactly sister offenses to what we think they might run if they're running a Patriots style.
Yeah, not quite, but you can catch the ball. Maybe you can figure some stuff out. Is there anyone that we're sleeping on, whether it be on the offensive line, wide receiver, running back, that maybe could turn some heads in camp? Not asking you to pound the table for someone we haven't mentioned, but they can maybe turn some heads and make things a little bit interesting anywhere on this offense.
We haven't touched on anybody like that. Do you have a name? Because I don't.
I want to see what J.J. Taylor looks like at running back. And I'm not sitting here saying that J.J. Taylor is going to be the guy. It's just what is he competing with to stand out? He's competing with Damian Pierce, Dario Gumbawale, and Woody Marks. And there were small stretches where you saw JJ Taylor and we're like, okay, there's a little something there. In this offense where they seem to at least value, based on what they did with Marks, guys that can catch the ball in the open field and perhaps make guys miss. I do wonder if JJ Taylor might have those opportunities. So I'm keeping an eye on him. And then at offensive line, I just kind of wonder if Titus Howard is a guard or a tackle. Like what I think the first place that Titus Howard lines up will give you a really good idea of what they think about him. And if it's tackle, then I think all bets are off and we don't know where the hell things are going from there. So I am intrigued to see what Titus looks like, but I think there's a chance that we just see Titus Howard at left guard and we don't see him give it up.
So here's the thing about Titus Howard. There's not a big sample size, but there's a sample size where we believe they think Titus is better at guard than Juice Scruggs. Because last year, Scruggs was healthy, could have played guard, but they kept Titus there. We also have a sample size where they believe that Howard and Fisher at right tackle, Howard at left guard, is better than what they were putting out there for most of last year because they decided to move to that. So it just feels like Titus, I may have him incorrectly placed here on this offensive line that we were looking at. Like maybe he should be the starter and somebody's got to beat him out because he finished the year at left guard last year. Like, and they clearly felt like he was better at left guard than Juice Scruggs because they never put him in. They never put Scruggs back in there at left guard once he was healthy and they could have. And we have the comment about Scruggs is a better center than guard from last year from Nick Caserio. So that's why I didn't put him at right guard. I put a guy who's played right guard there in Ed Ingram. I guess maybe Ed Ingram's better than I think he is. I don't know. I'm trying to sit here.
Yeah, you don't have to just answer. You can say nobody. Nobody's a fine answer on the offensive line. You don't have to.
Well, I would say nobody on the offense. Like I believe Luke Lachey is going to make the team, but he's not having some massive impact on the offense. There's not anyone on this offense that I'm going to be shocked if they I could see shocking us and turning into a useful piece of the offense.
No, all the competition's on the O-line. Like if you really look at stuff, like all the competition's on the O-line.
Mm-hmm.
Like really on the entire roster. There's still going to be something here and there, and there'll be like some corner battle or something, but all the competition is on the offensive line. All of it.
I will be very intrigued to see what the rotations look like. And I mean, if you're talking about competition, I feel like, and Nick Caserio is talking about, we can interchange things. Like, are we going to watch the same first team O-line 3-4 days in a row?
Here's the problem I have with it. And maybe this is unfair because, as we mentioned, you're kind of separating two different decision makers and two different faces that are making the decisions on the offensive line. And obviously things have changed, but here's kind of the thing that's wild just from watching what's going on at camp is last year competition didn't mean anything to them on the offensive line. And now all of a sudden it's like the strength. And it's like, yeah, it's like the strength, but really this competition exists because you don't have anyone worth a shit at any of the five positions that you just feel really good about. Like Nico Collins isn't competing. Christian Kirk isn't competing. CJ Stroud's not competing. Will Anderson's not competing. Daniil Hunter's not competing. I don't even know if Kalen Bullock is competing. CJ Gardner-Johnson's not competing. Neither is Lassiter. Neither is Stingley. Azeez Al-Shire's not competing. So it's cool that you're like praising this competition, but really, like when you hear it, it's fun for us to watch. It's fun for us to cover, but it's the old don't piss on me and tell me that it's raining. The competition is cool, but it's also symbolic of a really bad offensive line and no real options that you 100% trust.
Yeah. Hey, the offensive line was bad. What's different this year? Well, we have competition. Well, that doesn't mean the team's better. Like, you know who actually doesn't have any competition and had a worse offensive line than you last year? Like, they really don't have that much competition. Is the New England Patriots. You know what they did? They went and drafted a left tackle. They went and signed one of the best right tackles in free agency. They went and signed a free agent center. And they have 2 guards that were hurt last year that are now healthy. And it's like the Patriots, worse offensive line than the Texans last year. There's not really a lot of competition on their offensive line. Like, they might have one spot that's really kind of up for grabs. But like, they were one of the worst offensive lines in football last year. And competition was not their answer to fixing it.
And I like it. I'm fine with it. But it's not like, if that's what you're hanging your hat on, that means that you don't have anything to hang your hat on. That's my point with the competition. Like, oh, we believe in competition. Okay. Well, there's been times where I've rolled my eyes when y'all have had competition. Like, Kamari Lassiter didn't have to compete last year, and I have no problem with him not having to compete last year. CJ Stroud was basically in a fake quarterback competition with Davis Mills up to preseason game 2, 3, whatever it was. I kind of rolled my eyes at that. So I don't like, it's cool that y'all have it. And I'm glad that y'all are open to it. And you aren't just saying, hey, Titus Howard, you're our starting tackle. Hey, Blake Fisher, you're our starting tackle. Hey, Juice Scruggs, you're our starting center. That's great. But let's just emphasize, it's nice to have options, especially if you don't have, like, we're always using food analogies, but if there's a bad entree, I guess it's better to have 3 bad entree options than just one. But it can still end up being 3 really bad entrees. Like,
you can order whatever you want off the hospital menu. It's all bad food.
Yeah, it's cool because all competition is a lot of times is hope. It's okay. Well, this stinks. Yuck. Yuck. Okay, I might be able to make something work with that. Like, we'll figure that out. Like, it's not like that's what they're doing now. And I don't want to say it's gaslighting, but I do think we need to open our eyes and we need to like tell the people that that's great, but competition does not mean good.
What they're really hanging their hats on is our offensive coordinator's a smarter, better guy than the guy last year, and our offensive line coach is a smarter. That's what they're really hanging. That's what they were hanging their hats on at the very beginning of the offseason when they made changes. Like, it's worth noting, there were not significant changes on this offensive staff outside of those 2 spots. They brought in a coach that Nick Caley knows from the Rams. Cole Popovich got promoted, and obviously Nick Caley took Slowick's job, and then they changed out some of the quality control and the assistant guys. But the wide receiver coach is the same, the tight end coach is the same, the running back coach is the same, the quarterback's coach is the same. Like, they did not make wholesale changes. So what they're telling you is, hey, our offense wasn't as good as it needed to be last year. Large part because of the coaching, some part because of the players. We swapped the players out. We swapped the coaches responsible out, and the coaches that we do have now are better coaches, and they're going to coach up the guys that we have in the building.
And I think that's the best way to say it about the offensive line is it's at least different. Like, because there've been times where you get gaslit, where they're doing the exact same stuff, but they're telling you that it's different. Bill O'Brien, Lovie Smith. Yeah, like, you're doing the exact same thing, but you're gaslighting and saying that it's different. Okay, I'm calling plays now, and George Godsey and all this. It's like, nah, it's the same offense, brother. Like, so that's it. Their sales pitch is, it's not competition, because competition doesn't guarantee anything. It's different. And I think you just said that it's different than it was last year. Now, does that mean that it's automatically going to be better? No, because there's different forms of bad offensive line play in the form of different players, in the form of different schemes. So it's different, but this competition thing, yeah, we have competition. I don't know. Like, if Nick Caserio wanted to completely just like give you like 100% transparency, and this would make no sense for him. This would be stupid. But when he says something, we try to make sense of what he says with the people. And shout out to everyone in the chat. Hope you're having a good hump day. This week's gone by fast, by the way.
Yeah, it's already Wednesday. Where did Monday and Tuesday go?
It's crazy. But if Nick Caserio really, like, if we wanted to play Caserio translator, basically what he's saying about this offensive line is, we sucked last year. Pretty much everything is different this year. So we're hoping that changes produce better results. And then they look at the players individually, they figure it out. I have something nobody's talking about when it comes to Ursery, and I'm going to drop the Ursery video, I think, in probably like 90 minutes on the Locker Room channel. This guy is going to have a massive chip on his shoulder against one team, and you know who the team is, right? You've already looked at it, right?
No.
Because I want to tell you how this felt for him, because I watched the local news broadcast of Ursery out there in his hometown. And
I'll check it out in 90 minutes.
Let me just tell you what he went through, though. Just tell you what he went through. He has a draft party at home in Kansas City. It is a few miles from the Chiefs Stadium. He's rocking a KC hat with his family, a bunch of Chiefs fans and a bunch of friends and everything on day one. Kansas City needs an offensive line. They watch the offensive line get embarrassed in the Super Bowl. Him with his KC hat on, everything goes perfect. They're putting the best players available. He's up there along with Josh Simmons out of Ohio State when it comes to best offensive lineman available. And the Chiefs go up there and they make the choice of Josh Simmons. Day one over. This young man with his KC hat on and his family in his house, he has to go to sleep knowing that they drafted someone at his position before him. And then he wakes up the next morning and he gets drafted by the Texans. The news channel asked him, "Hey, what do you think about the Chiefs?" You know what he said? "Got nothing to say about them. I'll see them in the playoffs."
All right. I love it. I love it. Hey, I got a hunch that if he's playing when Kansas City shows up on the schedule, they don't need to go put Dalton Schultz out there to help him out to take on George Karlaftis.
Yeah,
I got a hunch.
Yeah, he said that they got the best tackle in the draft, and he said that I'll see them in the playoffs. Talking about the Chiefs.
Well, he'll see him before the playoffs if he cracks the starting lineup, because they're going to KC again.
Yeah, I'm starting to warm up to this Ursery thing. Did you see? By the way, you want to talk about offensive line culture change? Christy Reekin tried to double up on him, and she asked him what he was going to buy with his first check, and he said sleep. He said, "All I need is sleep. I don't really need anything." And she said, "Nah, but are you going to treat yourself to anything?" Because we know how Christy is. Christy's always got the nicest shoes. You know, Christy's a shopper. We know this. She knows this. And she goes, "Well, are you going to treat yourself to anything?" And he goes, "Nah, I'm good. I haven't thought about it."
Oh, so he's not going to throw lavish parties and have a camera crew follow him around?
No. He said, but yeah, he said, "I'll see him in the playoffs," is what he said. I was like, okay.
I like that.
See you, dog.
A couple super chats, Landry. Demeek found his O with this draft.
Swarm.
Did he, or did someone find the O for him?
Bando.
That's the question. Did he find it, or did someone find it for him?
That's a good question. They definitely added some players on offense. John says, "I'm confused on why Cody still has the 70s adult movie star stash on. Also, what free agent left would y'all want them to pick up?" I mean, Brandon Sheriff, the right guard for the Jaguars last year. I'd rather him play right guard than Ed Ingram. And then J.K. Dobbins at running back.
Yeah, J.K.
I'd like J.K. Dobbins at running
Little local dude. I was open to drafting him instead of Ross Blacklock. I was a big fan.
They worked out 2 running backs, but they didn't sign either of them. Chris Evans and Travion Henderson. That doesn't really excite me. Thank you for the super chat. John Felix, new OC, depth on offense, and this defense. I'm hyped. Greetings from Germany from Felix.
Shout out to him.
Hello.
Everybody keeps talking about Nick Chubb. I just don't
think there's anything left there. I think the knee's busted.
Yeah, I don't really get that.
And then MHW Nation, is Ursery the next Blake Fisher? Sure as hell hope not.
Come on, man. Don't dismiss Blake. That might be good. That might be a good 2-piece combo.
Well, Blake was one of the worst tackles drafted in his range last year.
I saw that the PFF guys, the former PFF guys, what is it? Steve and
Sam,
they confessed their sins when it came to the Nico Collins Higgins talk today.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they both said that they kind of make the mistake of I thought this was really good observation by them because you know how I feel about it. I don't want to beat the dead horse and do the two Nikos rant again or whatever. And I don't even think they're that similar, but I digress. But Steve basically said that they make the mistake and they often use the analogy of putting together a receiver room is like building a basketball team where stylistically you want guys that can kind of blend in. Like you don't want two shoot first guards. You want someone that can distribute and all that type of stuff, like in a different like type of sense. But then they brought this up, and I think this was where they were like, oh, okay, maybe it's not the best approach to do that, because they mentioned the Colts wide receiver room, and they're like, that is the prime example of a team that all they do is try to make their wide receivers blend. And you have Michael Pittman, who's the perfect possession guy, Alec Pierce, who's your vertical threat, and then you have the intermediate, like perfect
Downs.
Downs. And they're like, that's the perfect example of just trying to be cute and just trying to make guys fit instead of just getting the best players available, which I guess there's a balance to, but I thought it was a pretty astute breakdown by those two guys.
Yeah, there's truth to that. I would tell you, like, I think your comment about if you're a good offensive coordinator, you'll figure it out. I think that's probably the most important part.
That's basically what they said.
If you have overlapping skills.
That's basically what they said. I think they started looking closer at the whole thing, but I thought it was interesting that they brought that up. I thought that was a interesting ob. Is there anything else that stuck out about Caserio? I'm going to break some of stuff that he said down on the night show. I didn't think there was a ton from Nick. We got the offensive line, we got the wide receiver.
Kay Adams all like dipped her toe in the water on the Belichick stuff, and Caserio wanted nothing to do with it.
Boy, I don't either.
He said, I'm not well versed on that. I don't know. That's for other people to discuss. Like,
Belichick now has potential to have a hell of an FX movie. For real, bro. That was going to be boring. Like the 24-year-old just takes over. By the way, it's really weird. I'm sorry. I know it's legal. And a lot of times, like the justification is always that it's legal. But I guess like she put out a statement, like acting like she was him or whatever today, allegedly, and said that they actually met on a plane in like 2020 or 2021, whatever it was. Dude, he was 70 and she was like 20 or 19. Like that's weird. I'm sorry, dude. That's weird to me.
It's a very strange relationship, and I love
He's
every
ruining his legacy, by the way.
I love every conspiracy theory associated with it.
He's ruining his legacy.
But there's
he's a weirdo now. Like no one's siding with him on anything. He's a weirdo.
And it's not gonna be easy to go out there and just have a bunch of wins on the football field take care of it. Okay.
They're not going to win. You can't win with this. Like this is not winning. And the other thing is that I don't think there's any getting out of this. Like I really think if he tries to break up with her, she'll kill him. Like she's psycho, dude. No, I'm serious. That's what she looks like. She looks like a crazy ass nut job. And everyone's like, well, you know, dude, she's that girl is nuts.
Yeah.
To me, she looks crazy to me.
And you see there's like CBS has already come out.
Caserio and them have to think he's a weirdo right now. Like honestly, like I know Caserio won't say anything. He has to think he's a weirdo right now.
I have to imagine he just would say, "Well, that's not the bill I worked for. That's not the bill I worked for." Like remember when he wouldn't even let Brady have his own trainer come into the building, and now his 24-year-old girlfriend's running PR for him and on all the emails at North Carolina and on the field at the North Carolina spring workouts. Like, what are you doing?
He's his like publicist and stuff and all that. It's weird. It's one thing. It was weird enough, the dating and like, but it is getting really, really scary and strange. Just putting out statements like emails, like that don't really say anything and all that's weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's just the Caserio connection. Caserio wanted no part of it. I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either.
I don't blame him. That's going to be Cody's first question to Nick Caley, though. So be on the lookout for when Nick Caley's media availability is. That'll be Cody's first question to Nick Caley.
Oh, yeah. What do you think about Belichick being weird?
What do you think about Belichick's new girl, Nick?
About this time yesterday, I do want to update the people. You asked a fun sort of trivia question: how many different colleges are represented by multiple guys from that college on the roster for the Texans? I think we got to about 11 or 12 when we were naming them yesterday. The total is 18.
So there's 18 multiple colleges, 18 multiple players represented by colleges on the Texans. Okay.
Yep. The most unique ones that I really had to kind of do some looking to find. They now have 2 Iowa guys because their special teams linebacker that they signed is from Iowa, and then they obviously drafted one. They actually have 2 Minnesota guys because of Ursery and a college free agent that they signed, an undrafted free agent. And then Florida State, which we kind of talked about out loud yesterday, but ultimately Mario Edwards and one of the DBs, Florida State. And I'm thinking Ronald Darby. There it is. And then Tennessee, multiple Tennessee defensive linemen, Barnett and Taylor.
There we go.
And then Texas A&M because of some like depth guys at defensive tackle.
So there it is, 18.
18.
Was the answer to the question.
18.
Put that on the bingo card. Appreciate everyone for coming through. That's the state of the offense. We got plenty of fun planned for tomorrow as well. We'll look at the defense. It's probably going to be a lot more
pretty good right here. Real good over here. Awesome over here. All right. See you guys Friday.
Yeah. Holler at you. Good job. Elite.
That'll be the shortest SNL show of all time.
We'll look at the defense and we'll look at some other stuff and get it going. We appreciate y'all for rolling through. Caserio, God, what if he would have just dropped a bomb and said this is the weirdest thing ever and then told some stories? It would have been national news. But Caserio knows how to avoid the dumb questions, except not all of them. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.